Hey everybody, my name's John Reardon and welcome to NWR TV. Now, like most of you, when Nintendo unveiled the new Pikmin game on 3DS, my reaction was kind of like oh, that's different, but I think I might be okay with it. In other words, it wasn't a traditional Pikmin game on a handheld, and I do want a traditional Pikmin game on a handheld, but at the same time, the 2D puzzle platformer one looks fun, and I think it's a good use of that franchise, but it put the thought in my head, would a traditional Pikmin game even work on the 3DS? And luckily for us, this question has been addressed before, and there is an experiment that we ourselves can do to sort of see if putting Pikmin on the 3DS is even a good idea. To start with, we can ask the best source there is, Miyamoto himself. He stated that his team has worked on prototype Pikmin going all the way back to the GBA and DS, and as recently as the 3DS during the development of Pikmin 3. Now, understandably, neither the GBA or the DS had the just raw horsepower to run a traditional Pikmin game in a satisfying way, but what about the 3DS? The original Pikmin launched on the GameCube in 2001. Its graphics were quite simple, and one would think the 3DS more than capable of running a similar looking game. While it remains to be seen whether the 3DS could support the 100-plus characters on screen at any given time, comments made by Miyamoto during the development of Pikmin 3 lead us to believe that the actual power of the system was not the problem. According to Miyamoto, the primary issue came down to controls. Pikmin on 3DS just didn't feel like Pikmin, apparently. Now, your guess is as good as mine as far as how they had this game actually set up to control on the 3DS, but I'm guessing this wasn't the real reason it wasn't on the system, but rather a deflection. The Wii U was shiny and new, and had more buttons than any Nintendo system before it. Saying the 3DS couldn't control as well was less of a jab at the 3DS and more a bolster to the Wii U. Saying something that reflects positively on one system is better than saying something that reflects negatively on another. That's just good marketing. The real issue can be seen with a simple experiment. Pikmin 3 on Wii U runs at a resolution of 720p. The original Pikmin and Pikmin 2 run at 480p, assuming you're using a component cable or running them through the HDMI from the Wii U. The top screen of the 3DS, on the other hand, has a resolution of 400 by 240. That just barely inches out the resolution of the N64, which fluctuates somewhere around 320 by 240. In fact, it's essentially the same resolution as the N64, but the 3DS has a wider aspect ratio, adding an extra 80 horizontal pixels. In other words, if we wanted to display Pikmin on the 3DS, we would have to make some major changes. There are two options for doing this. We could either shrink the image down to the resolution of the 3DS, which causes us to lose all the fine detail, or we could show a smaller portion of the image, but at full resolution. For the sake of this argument, let's not even bother with Pikmin 3, as the 3DS wouldn't be able to get anywhere close to those visuals. A Pikmin game on 3DS would likely look much more like the original Pikmin. We'll go ahead and use the Wii version of the first Pikmin, as it displays at almost the right aspect ratio to convert to the 3DS. Pikmin is a detail-focused game, so let's start by only displaying a portion of the image. This will allow us to preserve the detail of the game. If we highlight an area of the screen 400 pixels wide by 240 pixels tall, we're left with this. Not a whole lot of the screen to work with, but let's give it a try. Now, yes, the image is pixelated, but it wouldn't look nearly as bad on the relatively small screen of the 3DS, and all the detail is here. We can clearly make out each Pikmin, and would have no trouble selecting items for the Pikmin to pick up, or hitting this Bulborb square in the eye. The trouble is, other than Olimar and our Pikmin, we can't see much else in the world at any given time. This will become more of a problem in later parts of the game where Pikmin are spread out across a map performing various tasks. Granted, we could put a map on the bottom screen, but keep in mind that its vertical resolution suffers just as much as the top screen, with its horizontal resolution being even worse thanks to its 4:3 aspect ratio. In other words, we'd be able to see the layout of the area, but spotting individual Pikmin would be nearly impossible. Sure, Nintendo could alter the gameplay style of traditional Pikmin to be more about fighting your way through a linear level, but we all know how well some fans deal with experimentation in their favorite series. By the way, that game is awesome. Don't listen to what the angry people told you. Just have fun and play video games for fun, because that's the frickin' point. Anyway, obviously we can't use this method of conversion without significant changes to the game's core design, and since the whole point of this experiment is to see if traditional Pikmin could work on 3DS, we'll have to throw this method out. Let's try an alternate solution. So for this second method, I'll once again show you the relative size of the 3DS screen as compared to the original image, but instead of only showing what's inside this highlighted area, we're going to shrink the entire game down to this resolution. On the bright side, this means that we can get the whole Pikmin experience. It's certainly all there, but is it playable? By lowering the resolution of the entire game, we've put ourselves in a bit of a predicament with those tiny Pikmin, as they are now only a few pixels tall and look more like a unified blob than individual creatures. Objects around us also suffer, and not just because they're hard to make out, but because they're hard to hit. Take a look at this giant Bulborb. Any Pikmin fan knows that a key part of fighting this guy is hitting him square in the eye to stun him and do extra damage. The problem is that in our 3DS prototype, that weak spot is at most about 6 pixels in diameter. As if that wasn't bad enough, Bulborbs are constantly moving, and unless Olimar wants to wind up his food, so is he. So now you're aiming at a moving target 6 measly pixels wide while you are also moving. It might seem possible, assuming that the game uses touch controls to throw Pikmin, but that would mean that the game's being played on the bottom screen, which has an even lower horizontal resolution. So in the end, while it may look like we're getting the whole Pikmin experience, when it comes right down to actually playing the game, this method doesn't work any better than the first one. So do I think that Nintendo should eventually make a traditional Pikmin game on a handheld? Absolutely. But do I think that that game should be on the 3DS? Absolutely not. I just don't see those games being playable at the resolution of the 3DS screen. I would much rather wait for a new Nintendo handheld with a resolution of at least 480p or preferably even higher. In the meantime, I am perfectly happy to try out a new take on Pikmin as a 2D side-scrolling platformer game. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, why not give it a like? You can also subscribe to this channel to make sure you keep up on all of our Nintendo-centric goodness, and head over to NintendoWorldReport.com for even more. If you really like the content you're seeing here, you can head over to our Patreon, that's patreon.com/NWR, and show us a little support there. By doing that, you get access to all kinds of exclusive content, and early access to a lot of the videos that go up here, so go check it out. Once again, my name is John Raridan, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.